Now, it is time to welcome today's expert. He's a distinguished personal finance guru, renowned for his practical advice on economic empowerment. Oh my God, I love that word. He's enabled countless individuals to navigate the complex landscape of finance with his award-winning money brand, The Humble Penny. So we all need a little bit of economic power. So please welcome Ken Okorafor. Hello. Good to see. Thank you so much for agreeing to... Yeah, really good to see you. Really excited about you coming on the show and helping us out this morning. So, up until 2020, you actually worked as a chartered accountant. Yes. So, strong financial background. We know you've got the minerals. You believe it's possible for everyone to become debt-free and financially independent. Is that right?
Yes, I believe people can do that. You don't need to be qualified or have certain qualifications to be able to manage your money. I think money is almost like a language, and you have to learn the language of money, and it doesn't need to be complicated to be able to do it. So I think that's why it's accessible to people.
I think actually that was going to be my next question. I feel like there's a lot of jargon, you know, and it's nervousness about I don't understand the jargon, I don't know the language, I'll feel thick or stupid. Do you think that's what people get put off by, not understanding what's going on with their money?
Yes, I think initially it's about the knowledge of how money works and the language of it. But beyond that, there's more to money. It's about behaviours and habits and that type of thing. So I think initially people need to understand the language of it. But beyond that, it's about what are your money habits and how are those money habits helping you to manage your finances.
Are there sort of standout things for you that hold people back from fixing their finances?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I think social media is one of them, right? Because there's always advertising. Everywhere you go, there's stuff being put in front of you.
Flexing on social,
there's comparison culture, right? There's the consumerism culture we have. You know, you tend to want what people want as well. But there's also things that we ignore, our relationship with money. So how did you grow up? What did your parents think about money? And how's that influenced you? You know, what's your money story? I think that's the one that's unseen. You know, you can see this stuff on social media and it's quite clear. But I think the one that people ignore is things like, you know, did you grow up thinking money should be spent or could it be saved or invested? You know, that actually comes from how our parents thought about money.
That's a good one because, like, with my mum, we shopped a lot at, like, car boot sales, like, jumble sales, because that was the 90s, you know, and my mum would always recycle stuff before it was cool. So that's really installed to me. There's loads of areas where you don't need to waste money and be so frivolous, you know.
Yeah. I can think about the same as well. Growing up, thinking back to my childhood, I know that up to the age of 7, the biggest influences I have related to money actually came from how I saw my parents do things. And the same applies to my wife as well. When we talk about savings, she's a much better saver than I am. Whereas I've had different phases, and this is what's interesting about money. You might start off not being so good at it, but over time, your relationship with money can evolve, and you can go from being someone who maybe sees money as, I need to just make it to spend it, to being someone who thinks, well, actually, I might want to prepare for a future that's ahead of me, you know. I heard you talking about turning 40.
Second act, yeah.
So I turned 40 not too long ago. So that becomes a focus for people. I don't know how you feel about that, but I felt really...
Just halfway to 10.
It really... It really feels quite weird.
Prime, OK, all right, I'm...
It feels weird getting to that age, you know, you start to think a bit differently. So, again, your relationship with money can evolve over time.
OK, that's optimistic. We like that. You talked about your wife there, Mary. And you wrote this book with your wife, Financial Joy. I like that. Never heard those two words.
Usually financial pain.
And it's Sunday Times bestseller. Should we whoop for that? Whoop,
whoop. No, that's a big achievement.
Thank you.
For anyone that's not got a copy, what's it about?
So Financial Joy is a 10-week plan to help you banish debt, grow your money, and unlock financial freedom. So what's beautiful about that book is you said there are 2 words that come together you never really see together ordinarily. The financial bit is about what we want. So you want that wealth, you want that financial freedom. But the problem with that, it's usually at the cost of your joy, your well-being, your fun, you know, the things that we tend to ignore. So this book is quite radical in that it brings together those 2 core ideas, but gives you a real step-by-step plan to say, do you know what? For anyone, even if you're not good at managing your money, how do you actually do it? So it walks you through week after week, everything from your beginning stages, what's your relationship with money, you know, your debt, you're trying to become debt-free, all the way to how do you actually grow your money? Let's say you got money in the bank account. How do you invest it?
Well, it's funny, right? Because I don't know like British culture for me, it might be different in Australia, it's like I associate accruing money has to come like suffering to accrue money.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I think that.
I think the hustle culture is real, isn't it? And also we don't talk about money.
No,
Yes.
not allowed.
It's right. I used to be a teacher, and we were quite transparent because we always knew what pay grade someone was on.
Yeah.
So I think I've got this un-British thing where I quite happily ask about money with people.
Right.
And I've really got interested in investing now, but it does feel really scary.
It does, and it's normal to feel that way because culture is a big part of what money is.
Yeah.
So in British culture, you have huge taboo. You talk about paychecks, net worths. People are like, oh, don't want to talk about that. How much you earn, don't want to talk about it. But if you go to outside the UK, it's very different. This is why I love travelling. You know, when you go to different parts of the world, you can observe culture.
Yeah.
And you can see, oh, wow, these people are open to talk about money in a very different way.
Yeah.
In America, it's different. In parts of Africa, it's different.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's a different thing. It's a taboo.
Yeah.
Now, at the moment, people are feeling the pinch financially.
Yes.
So what are some good starter tips for people that are finding, you know, money is just not stretching as far as it used to?
So a big problem we have with money, particularly when it's tight, is people don't know where their money is going. So a good thing to do is to begin to actually track your money. You know, there's a saying, what gets measured gets improved.
I don't want to know.
No, but you need to know. This is it, you know, because you kind of
Yeah.
need to know, well, how much I'm making and how much am I spending?
Yeah.
Because from there you can go, oh, okay, so I'm spending on these various areas.
I don't need
which
another
of
black top.
which of them are essential and which of them are non-essential?
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you look at your expenses that way, you can do a very non-British thing. Is that a word? Non-British?
Yeah.
Haggling. You know, we don't like to haggle.
I cannot. I'd rather just die on the spot.
It's interesting because around, you know, people often get these mid-contract price increases.
Yeah.
Maybe for your broadband, your telephone.
Oh, really?
And these just happen. You
Proper
get a letter
services.
saying, oh, sorry, we've just had your thing just gone up by
Yeah.
inflation, right? And most people just go, okay, we'll just accept it.
That's me.
When in actual fact, you can actually haggle. You know, for example, I know that a lot of people with their broadband don't actually get what they say they're going to give you. They say, oh, you're going to get up to X number of meg speed or whatever. But the service isn't as good. But what you can do is you can actually, within 30 days of getting those increases, you can phone them and say, well, actually, I'm not getting that great service and I've had this increase. I'd like to actually have it reversed. That's actually something you can do.
Right.
I have a top tip. I always get asked to be when it goes up my tariff on anything. I ask to be put straight through to the you know, the leaving department.
Yes.
So I'm leaving.
All right, Karen.
And yeah, I know. I'm leaving, and they always then all of a sudden everything's
Do you know
costs
what?
£15.
Do you know what? I've got a story about that one.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to leave, most people drop off when they say, I'm going to put you onto the leaving department.
Yeah.
If you go through that call and say, I'm not happy with the offer that was given to me, honestly, wait 2 hours, they'll call you straight back. And say, hey,
Top tip.
Yeah.
we've had our sales team
Bide your
think differently about it. Oh, we can now offer you this.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, the best thing is just ask,
Yeah.
because what's the worst that can happen?
And we're going to have to take a really short pause, but stay where you are, because after the break, Ken is answering some of your finance questions, so you don't want to miss out. I'll see you soon. Welcome back to my breakfast show. Laura Smith and Kathy Lett are on my sofa all morning, and personal finance expert Ken Okorafor is ready to answer some of your money questions. So, shall we get going?
Yes.
Let's have a look. So this is a viewer question.
Okay.
This actually came in on social from Alex. How do I start building good credit? We always talk about bad credit, but we don't
Yeah.
talk about building good credit.
Quite a few tips here. So first thing is you need to download your credit report. Very important, because on your credit report, there's certain things you can spot. For example, there might be errors on your credit report.
Okay.
Or you may need to check if you have the right address and spellings and things like that, because those actually hinder your credit score and that sort of thing. Also, being on the electoral roll is very important. It's a big green tick for your credit score, just making sure that it's notable as to where you're voting and that sort of thing. There's a thing called credit utilization, which is very important. So the idea is, imagine you've got a 5K credit limit on your credit card. How much you have as a balance on that credit card actually matters. Typically, you should have it to be around 30% or below.
Right.
So if you're spending more, let's say it's 5K and you've got a 3K balance, that's 60%. That's actually hindering your credit score. So the more you keep it below, the better. And there's one that most people don't think about is financial associations.
Okay.
This may surprise you. Who you're associated with actually matters when it comes to your credit score. It's weird because money, you're so connected to other people, to partners, siblings, parents.
Yeah.
And so you may have a situation where you may need to disassociate yourself. It's a weird thing. This is real. I've had situations where husband and wife team, wife is interested in looking after the finances, husband has secret debt.
Right.
And she just found out about it.
Yeah, this is quite taboo,
And this is hurting her credit score. Basically, there's a number of things one can do practically that can then cumulatively help to improve their credit score.
No dating losers, we got it. Right. Okay, Ken, this one's come in from Andy, and he says, should I be investing, and where is my money safest?
Great question. Should you be investing? For the long term, yes.
Yeah.
And before you invest your money, you should have some money left in cash for emergencies and that sort of thing. Now, the key thing about investing, why does it even matter? The problem with leaving money in the bank account is that it loses purchasing power. It loses value, basically, because of inflation. You can buy less things over time as your money lives in a current account. But investing gives you that opportunity for it to actually grow over time.
Right.
So I'd say, yes, investing is a good idea. Now, where should you invest for it to be safest? And this is where the jargon comes in.
Yeah.
So we'd say you should invest in things called trackers, so index funds. Basically, you don't want to pick individual stocks, ideally, because those companies might fail or not perform so well. So you want your money spread across lots of companies. The terminology, the jargon is index funds or exchange traded funds. Essentially, it means that with your £100 or whatever you're investing, when you invest it, it gets spread little by little across different companies.
Nice.
That way, all those companies are all working for you.
Yeah.
That's what you ultimately.
I like that. I've got a bit of a question, and it's kind of like buy now, pay later. We are in a cost of living crisis. Yes. So doing those kind of things, is it like a real no-go area? Because some people do really demonise that.
I think, firstly, demonising it is not a good thing because you don't know why people are using what they're using. So you can't really judge and that sort of thing. But there are some really important stats worth mentioning related to buy now, pay later. So the first almost fact relating to it is that it's an unregulated market. Okay. Which means that when people go to get buy now, pay later, they're not being tested for affordability. And that's a problem because it means that there isn't a cap on how much you can go into debt, basically.
That's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas with other types of debt, at least someone's checking, can you afford it? Are you sure you can pay back and that sort of thing?
Or duty of care.
Yeah, so I just think that's a concern, and that area, there's a lot that's been talked about in terms of changing the rules and that market being regulated, which I think will be a welcome thing.
Yeah.
However, there's some really interesting research by Citizens Advice Bureau. Around a third of people who typically pay for buy now, pay later are struggling with their paying back each month.
Yeah.
So,
it's really
there are late payments and there are missed payments.
Yeah.
And there are also people who, as a result of not being able to pay back, they're actually borrowing more money to pay the buy now, pay later payments. So it's creating this debt cycle, which, it's not really helping anybody. So whilst it's good to be able to spread your payments, which I really understand, because some people, it's their last resort. I really get it.
Yeah.
But we also have to think, well, actually, what does it actually lead to down the line? It leads to
people's
even more
mental
problems.
health and well-being.
Yes, more stress.
It's kind of not packaged as debt, is it? I always say it's almost like a kind of rich friend on a night out that's like, I'll get these.
Glamorised.
I'll get these.
Yeah.
And then a month later, you're like, oh, do you remember when I got you them drinks? Can I have the money back, thanks?
Exactly.
But you were my mate a minute ago, babes.
Can I just regurgitate?
It's not packaged as that. And I've seen it started to creep into things like restaurants and shops taking it.
Botox. You can get Botox on Klarna.
All right, let's not stagger off too early. Then what?
But at least then, when you're in debt, no one can see that you're in pain.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I would look shocked.
No, I'm really struggling. No, I mean, it's almost presented as a shopping tool, isn't it? Because you always buy lots of things that you can send back, don't you?
And an interesting point, actually, worth adding, that it means that there's no delayed gratification. Everybody wants...
I hate delaying gratification.
Hang on a sec, but this is important. Everybody wants everything right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they can let you spread the payment.
No, Carrie Fisher had the best line about instant gratification. She said, the trouble with the instant gratification is it takes too long.
Yeah. Genius. Well, listen, what I want is for you to stay all day, but sadly you can't. So I'm going to have to say thank you so much, Ken. Lots of top tips.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it was so useful, so much for us to take on board. Ken Okorafor, everyone.
Thank you.
And for more expert advice, Ken's book, Financial Joy, is out now.